Thanks for listening to Baxie's Musical Podcast. If you like what you hear today, be sure to like it, share it, review it, rate it, and keep an eye out on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook to find out what's coming up on future episodes. Today, we're brought to you by Metro Chrysler Dodge Jeep and Ram at Chicopee. Check out their state-of-the-art dealership next to BJ's and Big Y on Memorial Drive, or head over to metrojeep.com and drive home in your new Metro Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram today.
It's Baxie's Musical Podcast.
So if there's one thing I know about the music business, it's this. There is no one way to accomplish anything. Every success story is completely unique, and there are plenty of people who are going to stand in your way for a variety of reasons. The question is, how do you get past all that? How do you take your ambition, your talent, and your creativity to make something out of it? Again, there's no one way to accomplish anything. But regardless of what direction you take, success requires relentless hard work and a willingness to sometimes change gears. For nearly 30 years, Argentinian singer, songwriter, drummer, producer LAU has gone from being a studio musician to a solo artist and to a record executive. It's a path that has taken her from her native Buenos Aires to London and now to Barcelona, Spain. This is a woman who has chosen to pivot multiple times, opening for and working with and producing some of the biggest names in synth-pop, all while continuing to release her own music on her Aztec record label. Her latest album, Digital Dream, was released in November. This is her third solo album since 2021, an exceptionally catchy pop album that captures the same accessibility you might expect from someone like producer Giorgio Moroder back in the 1980s. Except she did it herself in her home studio in Barcelona and released it on her own record label. And as a result, it is a record that some are already describing as a synth-pop classic. So how do you become a success in the music business? You don't wait for it to come to you. Sometimes it's best to take control of it yourself, having a willingness to learn and to be flexible, and then having the ambition and drive to seize upon opportunities and clear the most inevitable hurdles that occasionally get in the way. In LAU's case, her relentless hard work and flexibility have resulted in international recognition. In fact, some of her songs have been streamed millions of times on Spotify. The story of her career and where it's taken her is absolutely fascinating. This is my conversation with Laura Ferris, better known as LAU, on Baxie's Musical Podcast.
Hello, hello.
Hey, Laura, how are you?
I'm good.
I'll tell you why I'm excited about this. Even though you're all the way in Barcelona, I don't ever think I've had a Zoom call with someone early all the way from Barcelona with all the time zones. That's like magic to me.
Yeah, I mean, it's nearly 7 p.m. here, so it's good timing, you know? What time is it over there?
It is just about 1 o'clock in the afternoon.
And you're in Massachusetts, yeah?
Yes, yeah.
Cool, nice.
It's so great to talk to you. I've spent a little bit of time hearing the album. I got a preview of it, and it's terrific. Yeah. It's really great, and I do want to talk more about it, specifically. But one of the things that I have been reading about you and learning about you, and I just find this to be so damn interesting, is that your career, maybe your whole life is this way too, I'm not quite sure, has gone through these series of periodic reinventions. And it's really interesting. It's really interesting. I mean, here you are, you're a kid being raised in Argentina, you're a self-taught musician. By the age of 21, you're going to London, and you're there for the next 21 years until you move to Barcelona. These are all big pivots from Argentina to Europe. Tell me about these transitions. Is this just a matter of just being like a restless individual, or is it are these were specifically made decisions?
I think it's not being afraid of change. It's knowing when a chapter ends and when it's time to move on and start a new chapter. I lived, like you said, 21 years in Argentina, and in 1999 moved to London to start my music career, to study music there. I had great admiration for a lot of British artists, especially all the 80s sort of, bands. Like Queen is my favorite band of all time. Mm-hmm. And I really admire, George Michael and the Police and a lot of British bands. And it was a dream for me to study music there, to start my career as a drummer, as a session drummer. That's the instrument that I chose. That took me all around the world playing drums for all sorts of pop bands and pop acts. I loved it. I did that for about 15 years, played in some big festivals and TV. And honestly, it was like a dream come true. Learned a lot in the process, met some big stars in the process, really learned the work ethics, how they work, how they write, the plugins they use, the vocal warm-ups they do before going on stage. It was so inspiring, and I was just like a sponge taking it all in. So that happened for about 15 years, and then on the side I was a producer, and I was starting to, I was a DJ as well. I started to create this record label with my good friend Ariela Mejeiras, who lived in London at the time. So we set up this label called Aztec Records to start promoting and releasing sort of pop 80s retro wave sounding music made today, but that sounds like back in the day, in the golden era of pop, as I call it. And it's been a journey. So I started developing artists. I wrote some albums for Nina. I wrote some songs for other people. So I kind of mutated from being just a session player, just a drummer. In my head, I felt, how long can this last? There's always going to be someone younger and prettier, and you can't be a session player forever. Right. In my eyes, the way I saw it was, eventually you're disposable, because they're just paying you by the hour, and you're not needed, after a while. So I thought, I would love to start creating original songs. I want to write, I want to compose, I want to produce, and that's why I started writing and composing, etc. So eventually, after doing all that and working for other artists and writing for other artists and sort of being a ghost writer or being in the background, I launched myself as a solo artist about 4 years ago. And here we are, album number 3 about to come out.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting to hear you say that you have this willingness to change, because even so many people get into this complacent lane and they don't vary from that lane. They stick into one straight path. And you have very clearly, not only been able to change, but also have taken these opportunities by yourself and have made these things, happen. Sometimes different factors come into people's lives and they either go left or they go right. But these are decisions that you made and that you enacted. And I think it's really extraordinary, because it's not just music. You don't see that very often. You just don't see that in life very often.
In life.
Yeah. And
I think it's trying to make the most out of maybe bad situations. Like when I left Argentina, there was an economical crisis. My family lost it all. Literally, they went bankrupt with all the crises we have every few years over there. It's pretty normal. But I thought, I need to find a better life. I need to go and try it. There's nothing to lose. And same happened when I separated a few years ago, and I had to start my own project and start again from. It's like, when life gives you lemons, just make some lemonade. And that's exactly what I did. Is I always try to see the positive, and what can I learn from that situation? What can I learn from, how can I evolve? And I see it as musical evolution or musical reincarnations, as I call it, because I am applying everything that I've learned so far. You will hear the rhythm, my drumming, or the rhythm, or all the things I've learned as a DJ, as a producer, or managing other bands, or developing other. Everything that you hear in my music, it's been years of learning and trying. So that's what makes me who I am today. And I think we are not one thing. I think we all are many different things in different stages of our lives. Our focus can change, and that's absolutely fine.
When you decided to come to Europe, and you get, in particular, London, like I said, big transition from Argentina to London.
Yeah.
How long did it take you to get to the point where you started to feel like, okay, I'm starting to establish myself? I mean, obviously, it doesn't happen day one. It is a process. At what point did you start to think, okay, maybe this is where I need to be, and I'm moving it in the right direction?
I guess the gigs got bigger and bigger. So when I was doing some sort of session drumming, I was doing my DJ on the side, bits and pieces here and there, touring with smaller bands. And then one day I get a call from Sam Sparrow, who he lives in LA. He was looking for a drummer. They knew I also used drum machines, and because I was sampling. So that's why I was saying earlier, everything's connected. Because if I didn't have all that production knowledge and all that electronics knowledge, sampling pads, etc., maybe I wouldn't have had that gig. So it was important for them that I knew how to use samplers and all that. So it was great. I loved it. So Sam Sparrow, based in LA, but he got signed in the UK, and they were looking for a band in Europe to do all the touring. And that was a huge gig for me. Suddenly I'm playing Top of the Pops and Glastonbury, and we're flying to Australia to play the ARIA Awards and like some big things, you know? So I think that was a really nice jump. That was, yeah, this is it. I love it. As a session player, it was great. And then I got called from, you know, The Voice and then Ricky Martin, then Tayo Cruz, then lots of really big international artists. So as a session drummer, I felt this is great. And again, it lasted for, you know, a nice 15 years.
Yeah.
I'm so happy that I did that, travel the world, etc. But I could see at some point it was going to have to end.
Yeah.
In my case, anyway. I don't consider myself the best drummer in the world. I just feel like I gave it my best. I'm a good performer, but not technically gifted or anything. So I'm so grateful for the opportunities and the fun that I've had, and it's been great, you know.
So, you know, as a drummer, and you know, the old joke is, you know, the drummer's the person who sits behind all the musicians.
Yeah,
I don't agree with that necessarily, but you know, at some point, like you say, you know,
unless you're Phil Collins.
Right, yes, exactly. Right, exactly. But at some point in this process, like you say, you started to see where, okay, this thing is going to have a crescendo and then it's going to kind of wane and drop off. At what point do you think in your head what you really want to do now is either become a songwriter or a solo artist and then get into the record company? I mean, it couldn't have just been a simple transition. How did that happen?
Yeah, it all happens. It's all interconnected. So one thing sort of leads to the other. And I think in life, you got to be able to see beyond and see the opportunities. I'm quite a positive person. So I try to see the good in the bad and the opportunities. And I don't like to let any opportunities pass by. And when I met Ariel in London, my business partner, we had the same taste in music. We felt like there wasn't an indie label. Mm-hmm. This was 2010. Or that's 2011. There wasn't an indie label releasing this kind of 80s based music, retro wave, etc. And we were just really passionate about putting music out. So at the same time, I was touring and I was drumming and I was DJing. So it was all kind of intertwined. And then maybe one takes over the other. It's not, like you said, it's not a clean break. But right. I knew to survive in this industry, I had it very clear that I had to create original music. I wanted to write. I wanted to have my own songs and have my own royalties for life. I think that's really important. I felt sort of disposable. And why is that? I'm not saying anyone mistreated me. I'm just saying you're just waiting for that call. You're waiting for the next session, and it could be months. And you're like, okay, what do I do now? How do I pay the mortgage? How do I, you know? So those gaps, and a lot of musicians suffer from, you know, depression or they get anxious about it if you're just depending on that paycheck of a live gig. You know, I thought, no, I want to be more than that. I want to record. I want to write. I've always sung. I just never had a great technique singing, but I always sang and had a good ear. So I just wanted to write. And I felt that was a natural evolution. It was the next step. And I felt I had something to give to the world apart from drumming other people's songs. I wanted to play my own songs. And here we are.
One of the things that I respect about the idea you're talking about, you're starting a business, you have bills to pay, you got a mortgage to pay, whatever it may be. You know, one of the things that you did with Aztec, which I think is very, very bright and a real good business decision, is you expanded the roster and then allowed a lot of those assets to be used commercially in film and TV and video games. And you know, from a business standpoint, you know, it makes all the sense in the world. A small independent label really kind of needs to do that in order to get to the next financial level. And you certainly did do that. You know, just within a few years of opening, I think within 4 years, you were already starting to license music.
Yeah, we were very lucky initially. We've had some big brands like Mercedes-Benz and Victoria's Secret and lots of really big brands using our music, which was fantastic for us. And sort of the big labels were going, who are these guys taking these big syncs, you know, these placements? How are they getting them? I don't know how we were getting them. It was just good music. That's all I can say. We were releasing music that we were really good fans of, the artists that we published and we worked with. And it's definitely, I mean, it's a game that you got to be on it, especially as an independent. No one's funding us. It's all self-funded. Just surviving, navigating. This industry changes every single day. And just, I think, because we are small, we can adapt really quickly and learn from our mistakes and, correct and move on. So yeah, it was a bit of a gamble. It was a lot of hard work at first. But now I think we built something that is sustainable. We've learned a lot in the process. We know the artists we want to work with. We know how we want to nurture them. Me being one of those artists out of 50 artists that we work with currently, but it's been a learning curve, and we're open to learning even more. It changes every single day.
I think in order to survive in that industry, owning an independent record label, like you said, you need to have a willingness to change and to be adaptable. It is not an easy business, and to have taken it to that level and feel as though, that it is sustainable after 14, 15 years, however long it's been. To me, that, I mean, there are record labels all across the world that wish they were in the position you're in. And I think that's really remarkable, because it's not like things have gotten easier over the last 15 years. They've become substantially more challenging. For a small company like yours, what is the more challenging aspects of owning that company?
I think it's adapting and not just being really resourceful. We don't do super expensive videos or anything like that. Everything's made with love and with passion and with creativity, But I think, especially nowadays with social media, you can go really far just doing home videos, and if a cool idea behind it, it's what's sustaining it. It's good enough, Of course, we wish we had a bigger budget, and that's fine. But at the same time, it is sustainable. It's not overspending, not getting the artist in debt, because sometimes the artists, they don't understand that it's their money, and you're advancing the money, but it's their money at the end of the day, and they're going to have to recoup that. So we are very, very cautious with our spending. Like I said, we learn from our mistakes, and it's a small team, small enough to adapt. I don't know, to be honest. I don't know. But what I do know is a lot of small labels have gone bust, especially after the pandemic, or trying to adapt, or getting like very little money from Spotify and these platforms that pay very little. But we always find a way to compensate for that. So we have physicals, for example. We do vinyl, CDs, cassettes. People buy them because of the kind of music that we do, that is very retro. They like that. They like to have the physical in their hands. So we kind of balance out and quickly accommodate for whatever year we're in, and we manage to survive and to keep going. And I think that the secret is having really good music and really good artists.
So at a certain point, and again, you're in London for 21 years. At a certain point, you say, okay, I've had quite enough of this. I want to go to Barcelona. And this is before you really start recording your own solo music. But what was it that said, okay, now I think it's time to, again, transition into another direction? In this case, it's Spain, and still be very much a part of Aztec Records. But you did move. What was the determining factor for that transition?
So what happened was I basically stopped working with Nina, who's a German artist that we developed for many years. I wrote 2 albums, 1 EP for her, and we did a lot of work. We toured the world together, and we sort of split up. We dissolved the band. She carried on her way. She moved to Berlin, and this was all during the pandemic. So I thought, okay, now is the perfect time to release my solo stuff. Now is the time. And I just wanted to start singing my own songs instead of giving them away. That's the main thing. And I did write the first album in London, actually, believe it. So I did write it during the pandemic. I was 9 months sort of locked in London. And those 9 months without being able to travel, and with obviously miserable weather in London and other personal things, I was like, I don't actually want to live here. Like, I've had enough of 22 years was enough. I made the best out of London. I loved it. It gave me so many things, traveled the world, toured, and set up the business, etc. But I felt like that was a chapter that I had to close. I had to come to a sunnier place, which is Barcelona, which is not far from London. It's only an hour and a half on a plane. And I just wanted, yeah, warmer climate, and also Brexit was happening. So I arrived in Barcelona a month before Brexit. I knew I wanted to be part of Europe and remain in Europe, to have that freedom of movement, and I just felt like I wanted to remain in Europe. So those were the reasons why. And then I wrote, yeah, the next two albums in Barcelona.
So Believer comes out in 2021, and you talked about Spotify. The song Stunning. It's got 2.3 million.
My first
hits.
single.
My
first single is insane. Yeah.
I mean, those numbers are insane to me. 2.3 million hits on Spotify. It is amazing. But the interesting thing about that record, because I've heard all three of them, and that one comes off as such like a personal statement from you. And and it sounds like that it's like creatively really important, on top of it being so personal. Tell me a little bit about that, and about that record, and where you were at that time in your life when it was ready to release.
Absolutely. Well, I was going through a breakup, a really painful, horrible breakup. So to me, that was my catharsis. It was to put it all in songs, and also to find my voice, because I always sang backing vocals for Nina, or I used to record her lead parts, and then she would go and re-record them. So for me to find my voice, and it was a really big decision to think, what's the first single? How am I presenting LAU now? Everyone's seen me in the background or doing things for other artists. How do I put myself out there? What does my voice sound like as a lead singer, and also singing live? It was all actually quite terrifying. Like you said at the beginning of the interview, I was always behind the drums. I was safe and hidden behind the drums. And trust me when I say, when they take away that, and you feel naked with just a microphone in front of an audience, you feel absolutely naked. And it was a learning curve to go, oh, okay, now I'm at the front. I need to, I'm a show person. I need to perform. It was a big step. It was terrifying at first. Now I love it, but it was terrifying at first. I was like, you feel judged. You feel, what are people going to think? You feel so vulnerable. You're singing about your emotions or things you've gone through. But Stunning was great. It was really well received. Loads of people messaged me to say, oh my God, I've been through a breakup. I know what it feels like. Because even though it's an upbeat song, the lyrics are quite dark. Like, you've lied to me. You're beautiful, but you're not a great person, And loads of people connected with that song. And I think the numbers show that.
It's really an amazing song, because I don't think there's anyone that can't relate to some part of it in some way. But then to come out as a solo artist after all these years, and like you say, you're coming out in a very vulnerable way, artistically vulnerable, but you're really kind of opening yourself up. Was that, obviously you talk about the difficulty of the transition, but at some point once it's released and you're performing these songs, and then you're getting the recognition, does your confidence improve through that? Yeah. Or do you feel like, man, I got to come up with a second record. I need another breakup. I need another bad relationship in my life.
I know. It's weird, isn't it? Sad songs sell better than happy songs somehow. But no, I think I would say most of my songs, 99% of my songs are autobiographical. I do get inspired with things I go through, etc. But the nice thing is that now I don't cry when I listen to that first album, Believer. For a long time, I couldn't listen to it.
Right.
And I remember, at one interview, when I first released the album, they were asking me about the hardest song in the album. And it was I just couldn't even, I was in tears, because it was like therapy. It was putting all that frustration, anger, sadness, whatever, putting it out in songs. And I think that's what I do with all my albums. But the funny thing is, the second album is happier. So I found love again. I moved country. I had a long distance relationship. So the second album, Circumstance, talks about that, about being in the distance with someone and not knowing what it's going to be like when you actually meet them in person. So it was really, it's an interesting journey. I feel albums are important because it's like a chapter in your life. And also for the fans following you, they're following your life. I think it's important,
So the third album, Digital Dream, it's your first solo album outside of COVID, which is interesting. Your first two come during pandemic, but your third one, you're beyond it and out of it for the most part. Tell me about the importance of this record. I mean, this has to be kind of at a very important time to release this record for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And also a lot has changed in a couple of years, you know, a lot has changed in social media, in the way we release songs. You know, Spotify changes every single day. I feel like we have to constantly relearn how to release music. It's quite exhausting. Digital Dream talks a little bit. Well, the lead song of the album is called Digital Dream, and it's a bit of a reflection on technology. And I mean, it's great. Technology is great. We're having this video call right now, which seemed impossible maybe 10 years ago. But you know, up to what extent are we spending hours with technology, and are we not connecting face to face? And how many hours are we spending creating content for social media and being glued to our phones? And so I feel like we need to find the balance, and we're not finding it. And we're all like rabbits searching for the answer, you know, and swiping and scrolling. And so it's a bit of a critique or a reflection. I don't have the answers.
Yeah.
We all need technology, of course. And we're all starting to use AI every day in our lives. And it's just a little bit of where are we going with this? What's happening? So the artwork of the album is a little bit apocalyptic. It's a little bit Terminator style. You know, we are at the future. The future is right now, but what does it look like? You know, it's not that great. We need to find the balance.
As I'm listening to the record, I mean, I'm hearing a great deal of sophistication in how you're writing, and there are prizes along the way which are really kind of fun to listen to. And you also embraced an expanded role in making this record. I mean, you mixed a lot of it yourself, which you hadn't really done a whole hell of a lot of before. Tell me about that process and the ability to have to finally have like more control over the final product. Is that what you were hoping for by taking that responsibility?
Yeah, well, it's been interesting. Actually, this album took me 2 years in the making. I had a whole bunch of demos, and I discarded all of them, and I only kept one song called Damaged, which is a sort of a synthwave ballady type, which again is a very vulnerable song. I'm really hurt, and I don't know if I can love again. I don't know if I can open myself again. So don't expect too much from me. You know, that's kind of what the song says. And it's just pure synthwave. You know, it's mellow, it's slow, and that's the only song that I kept. And then I rewrote all the other songs all over again. I felt they weren't as good as I wanted them to be, and as real and as, you know, open as I wanted them to be. So here we are rewriting another 8 songs completely. I work with producers from all over the world, like I always do. My main producer is Brian Skill, who is in Ohio, in America. And that was great. As usual, it's back and forth. We throw ideas around, you know, I send keywords or whatever, obviously all the vocals, harmonies, some percussion or whatever is needed. But I felt I did 2 songs with the Lightning Kids and with Johnny from the Lightning Kids, and I felt I dared to mix them. I thought, these are great. I think I can mix it. Instead of I'm always telling the producer exactly how I want it, and I'm like, what am I so afraid of? Just mix it yourself, you know, for God's sake. So I did mix a couple of songs in the album, and I'm really happy how they turned out, you know. So I think I will be doing more mixing in the future. I started off as a producer. When I was a DJ, I used to do lots of remixes and producing. So I guess, you know, it's all in there. All that knowledge is in the back of my head. I just had to get used to maybe the new tools, the new plugins, etc. But yeah, it's been a journey. It's been a journey.
You had mentioned earlier about you as a vocalist and, you know, getting comfortable in that space. You know, when I'm hearing these records, I hear someone who's very comfortable sounding their voice, and it seems like you are in that space now where you do have some confidence, and you do seem to be a little bit more self-assured. How do you feel that's come along, and was there a moment where you say, oh, okay, I think I got a handle on this?
I don't know if I'll ever feel like I got this, you know. As a vocalist, I feel like, I mean, unless that you're Celine Dion or Mariah Carey or Ariana Grande, I don't think you got it ever, because there's so much technique to learn. And what was revealing to me is, of course, the minute I start singing and doing gigs and touring, my voice couldn't take it. You start, you know, you lose your voice, you get ill, you get dry throat, you know. of course, then you start suffering as a singer and you go, all right, okay, so I can't eat that. I can't drink that. I can't be around smoke. I can't talk loudly before or after a show. I need to sleep properly. I need to hydrate myself. There's a million things that you start learning the hard way and you go, okay, next time I should do all these steps, you know? So I guess I'm a little bit wiser. I've got the knowledge. But then there's a lot of, you know, discipline that I don't think I have yet. All the vocal warm-ups and, you know, I should be practicing every day. And I'm a little bit lazy, to be honest. I love to compose and to write, and I love touring. I just don't have the discipline that I should have. But it's good enough for me. I mean, the records I put out, I'm really proud of them. I think I always do the best that I can, to the best of my abilities. I hope I will improve as a vocalist over time, or technically speaking. But so far, it's my tool to show my emotions and to share my emotions and how I feel.
I would think that after the first 1.3 million streams on Spotify, it's okay to start feeling a little cocky about your voice.
I don't think I ever will. I mean, I've toured with, you know, we opened for Erasure, for example, and just hearing Andy Bell warming up backstage. I mean, just hearing him. I remember, you know, me and Nina recording his warm-ups and going, oh my God, it's like having Freddie Mercury next to you, you know, like the vocally, like the technique. It was insane. So I honestly, I don't feel at the same level by all means, but it is a journey. And what I do hope is that I become a better songwriter over time. I think I will never, ever stop learning, and I'm getting better, you know, little by little. Everyone's got their own journey, you know, their own fights to fight.
What's your plan moving forward here? I mean, you say you love touring. Is there a plan to start touring, you know, or, you know, coming to the States, or are you going to, you know, continue to be in Europe for a while and see what happens there?
The idea is to play a couple of shows in Spain in these coming months, and I am coming to America in April. So
good.
I got one show confirmed, and I'm trying to find other shows, but it would be mainly possibly California, perhaps Arizona and New York. Short trip, just a couple of weeks. But I haven't been back in so many years, I think over 5-6 years. So it would be great to go back. I've never gone there as a solo artist, so I've got a few fans waiting there. So it's going to be great to meet them again and to be on the road with this new record.
Well, the record is terrific. Digital Dream is the title. You know, it's really great to talk to you. I've really enjoyed it. I wish you all the luck. Not only this record, but coming out to the States and in introducing yourself to people. That'd be wonderful for you.
Thanks, Mike. And who knows? One day I'd love to play in Massachusetts as well. You know, next time I come over. But we'll see. We'll make it happen.
You can stay on our couch. How's that?
Amazing. That's great. Just if it's comfy, that's fine. I'm up. Come up for that.
You may have to fight with the dog for space, but it'll be fine.
I love dogs. No worries.
Great. Hey, it's a real pleasure to talk to Laura. Thank you so much. I appreciate the time today.
Thanks, Mike. It's been lovely to meet you.
Bye-bye now.
See you later.
The name of the new album from LAU is Digital Dream, now available from Aztec Records. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed it. Again, you can always email me at bax@rock102.com. I'd love to hear what you think. Thanks again to Metro, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram at Chicopee for their support. But most of all, thanks to all of you for listening to Baxie's Musical Podcast.